everybody, Scott Luton with Supply Chain Now. We're continuing our coverage here in Orlando at Gartner Supply Chain Symposium, where I'm telling you, the movers and shakers changing how global supply chain takes place, how business takes place. And I'm going to continue that theme, meeting with my new best friend here, Vikram Srinivasan, Vice President, Solution Architecture and New Products with Optilogic. Vic, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm glad to be here.
Great to see you, man. You know, we had a great webinar a week or so ago, and it's great to finally meet you in person and talk one of our favorite topics, which is the Buckeyes. No, the supply chain. Is that right?
That's right. Both.
Both.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm referencing Vic is the Ohio State University alum and a big-time Buckeyes fan. We talked about that in the last session. But one thing we didn't talk about in the last session before we get into supply chain is you are a cricket player. Used to be an active cricket player, but business got really busy. And help me understand the rules of cricket, because it's a massively popular world sport.
Yeah.
How does it all work?
Yeah, it's the closest first take would be baseball, right?
Yes.
You start like with playing baseball, but it's slightly different. You have the batter, the bowler, but the bowler is not standing and pitching.
Right.
He or she is running in and bowling. And the batter hits a ball, and you can either get 1 run, 2 runs, or like a home run equivalent is a 6, right?
Okay.
And there's 11 players on each side, and 2 innings, and not the 9 innings in baseball.
Right.
Two innings.
So they are close cousins,
Yeah.
baseball and cricket.
They're definitely close cousins.
And then the other thing you mentioned pre-show, which we got a chuckle out of, is because they're such close cousins and close games, I think you had invited a bunch of folks that hadn't played cricket before to play the game.
Yes.
And one thing transpired. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was really funny because we had the engineering team. They showed up and we played cricket. And I taught them the rules and everything. And the guy who hit the ball, just like in baseball, he flung his bat.
Right.
And he ran to base, and usually you're supposed to run to the wickets, right? That's next to you. So it was very confusing for me. I was like, maybe he got mad at me, but it all worked out. It
all ends up working
It always
out.
works out.
And I tell you, sports, bringing people together, whether you're learning new sports or you played it for a long time, what a wonderful thing to do. And I look forward to hearing more about some of your cricket adventures, Vic,
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
All right, so we got a lot to get into here today and here in Orlando. I think you've already had a great couple of days here at Symposium. I can only imagine some of the conversations you've had. But when you think about some of the top challenges that, whether it's Optilogic customers or some of the leaders that you connect with out there, a couple of top challenges they're looking to solve, what comes to mind, Vic?
Yeah, I think a lot of the disruptions that have happened in the last several years, the AI autonomous era that Gartner talked about, leaders are really a little bit, in, I would say, a state of understanding
Right.
and pivoting to the new normal. And disruptions have always been there. It's just that it's compounded to an all-time high. And so what we're seeing is that how do you make faster decisions without, losing accuracy in the decision?
Yep.
And more bias for action, because there's only so much you could plan ahead with all the volatility. And so building those decision systems that are more, I call it decision velocity. So higher decision velocity, self-serve, have folks to be able to do that. And without that, the challenges they're facing is you're not able to have availability, right? Because you have a whole bunch of plans that are static.
Right.
And you're either stocking out, you're overstocking, and you're not able to really meet the supply chain service. And cost is another issue. We're seeing a lot of rising costs, as you can imagine, with tariffs. You can imagine with all the pressures we're seeing on oil, gas prices as well.
Sure.
So how do you navigate uncertainty, and how do you have a compass that can help you really move forward and be accurate with decisions? I think that's kind of where we're seeing folks focus.
That's quite a list. There's no shortage of challenges, and there's a lot of common themes in our conversations here between what Vic shared and what other conversations we have with supply chain leaders. I want to call out one thing before I move on to the next: decision velocity. And as we've talked about before, not only is that speeding up decision making, but it's also making more of the right decisions where the team or the individuals and the team and the organization are confident in said decisions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff at the intersection of faster, better, and more confident, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and so one of the ways that a lot of these challenges can be addressed is through a better way of designing supply chains, right, and supply chain ecosystems. I want to talk about that big shift that you're working to help teams make from static planning to continuous decisioning. So tell us about that shift.
Yeah, absolutely. So, gone are the days where you can have, we call it a static blueprint, to be able to drive your daily, weekly, monthly decisions. You need to have a more dynamic model, whether it's an actual supply chain model or a business model or a mental model, right? To be able to rethink on an ongoing basis, reimagine, the decisions and what's really required. And so continuous decisioning is all about having a living and breathing digital twin to start with. So you have your data foundation. It's readily available. It has the data and the insights that you can act on.
Yep.
And then the continuous piece is to be able to understand and sense both changes in your own data in your enterprise, but also outside. And then based on those changes, have a way to quickly emulate and run various what-if scenarios for your organization and come up with a way to be able to translate that down to the operations. So that capability of being able to do all of that is what we term as continuous decisioning and what-if analysis.
I love it. I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember this guy I reference a lot. His name is Ron Popeil. He was the king of the infomercial, right? He's on TV all the time back in the heyday of infomercials. And one of the products, one of his most successful products was this oven that came with a timer and some other technology, and you could pop something in it, and then you could move on and do what else you had to do. And he had this catchphrase of set it and forget it, right? But we can't do that when it comes to our supply chain design,
That's right.
network, really the whole enchilada, right? It's got to be, as you're describing it, living and breathing, anything but the static blueprint, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
And by the way, we miss you, Ron Popeil, on late night TV. Man, that guy could sell anything. All right, so let's talk about what must be in place for companies to make this shift. We're going to talk about the outcomes in just a second. But Vic, what's got to be in place so companies can navigate this big shift that really changes organizational success?
Yep. I think it starts with being able to first set up your teams and the infrastructure to support this capability. So build that capability in-house. It's a newer capability. Agentic AI is going to help you do it faster, easier, but you would have to, it's a deliberate effort to build out this capability.
Yep.
Because a lot of the capabilities that I see with existing systems in place is really good and built for running the supply chain. But for decision making and understanding the types of trade-offs, the what-ifs, there needs to be what I call the digital twin. So first setting that up, having folks who can very quickly work with data, glean insights, work with agents, and be able to make decisions and have critical thinking, entertain a new possibility, a new state. We call it an alternative to what's available today. And finally, all that is only good on paper. And if it's not implementable, then that's a great theoretical exercise that hasn't really changed your operations. So being able to then socialize that across the org and be able to actually impact decisions and have that continuous decisioning we talked about, all the way from the strategy, looking at alternatives, and implementing it. And so building out that capability, socializing that capability, and getting more stakeholders aligned from the get-go is how I think you could transform this process.
I like it. And Vic, you should know, you and the Optilogic team are helping many, many organizations cross the chasm, right? And make this big shift. So you're speaking really from a been there, done that perspective, which really is my favorite perspective, or there's no other perspective to be had. Okay, so let's talk about the so what. And that's the outcomes that for companies that make this shift, the outcomes that they can gain for the workforces, which is one of my favorite parts of this story, the companies, customers, the leaders, even the leaders themselves? What are some of the big outcomes that you see companies benefiting?
Yeah, so they're more proactive than reactive, which in itself is a good trait to have, where you're now able to be ahead of the disruption or be able to have playbooks to quickly get ahead, right? And so that gives you, one, a competitive edge to start with. It gives you speed to market. It gives you certainty and efficiency gains on cost. It helps you de-risk decisions and build resiliency in your supply chain. And so when you do this proactive approach, the opposite of this is more familiar when I say things like putting out fires.
Right.
Though no one wants to do that. Stockouts, having constant, issues with capacity because you haven't taken a step back to think, why do I have a capacity issue? Maybe you have a lot of capacity, it's just tied to the wrong products that people are not demanding.
Right.
And there needs to be a shift. So I do think that's the outcome at a fundamental level that can then lead to a ton of efficiency gains across the supply chain.
Vic, we could spend a lot of time on just your last response, right? And that's often the case with some of the conversations we have here. But one thing I really want to call out, and hopefully you agree with me, and if you don't, please let me know. I know you will. These outcomes really changes the organization's ability to scale and to grow and to enter new markets and to develop new products and to delight their customers, but also delight their team members, right? Their employees, because as you called out at the beginning of your response, who likes to put the same fire out every single day, right? So I would argue making this big shift we're talking about really enables the organization, really empowers the organization's ability to scale, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly right.
So let's get some use cases from Vic and the Optilogic team, because again, this is where you spend a bunch of your time. This is why Vic can't play cricket anymore, because he's such in demand. Is that right?
One way of saying it, yep.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite examples of where you and the company have jumped in and helped companies find this gear?
Yep. That's a great question. There are a lot of use cases that we work across the overall network down to specific parts of the supply chain, whether it's routing optimization, inventory optimization,
right,
sourcing and supplier selection, distribution, and logistics, right? So there's a whole bunch of use cases. But a couple of use cases that come to mind, the top of mind, are one is around how a recent company navigated the tariff pressures, right? And with this ever-changing tariffs that were happening, there's a huge impact to a supply chain, all the way from the total landed cost, because as soon as you changed a tariff based on the product flow, based on the type of product in the HS code, you have a whole ripple effect across the supply chain. Everything changes, right? And that's the complexity of supply chains. It's this whole bullwhip ripple effect that happens.
Right.
And so what I found really interesting in that use case is for that customer to be able to take a step back. There are some tariffs that might come back to normal, so not having a knee-jerk reaction to those. But there are some that could be fundamentally set and have direct impact to margin based on volume and cost of goods. That has to be considered and quickly adapted. And so that's a use case that I saw how they did that, the success they got from staying ahead of it, and the calmness in which they were able to do it because they spent the time way ahead versus reacting to that news of that change.
Yep.
And another example, I would say, recently that was very exciting is the understanding of how do you bring demand forecast, right? So not just looking at a point forecast, which means a number, right?
Yep.
But looking at the actual outcomes and the range of outcomes. Because when you're in a highly uncertain environment, I can't tell you, hey, Scott, let's plan for 300 units 3 weeks from now.
Right.
You're going to have to know what is the spread of it? What's the uncertainty? And by knowing all that, you run the right scenarios, and then you model for the right demand outcome, and you're able to make that shift continuously. That can unlock the right investments on inventory and capacity. And those are quite expensive usually. And you get that wrong, you're going to have a lot of money that you've wasted.
And that's no good.
That's no good at all.
No good. And kidding a little bit aside, I'm kind of tongue in cheek, but beyond the money piece, the the emotional fatigue and the heartburn and the friction within the organization is arguably even more damaging. I want to go back to the tariff example you used, where organizations have been working with Optilogic to really navigate these tumultuous times. Today's trade wars and tariff emergencies, I got depending on how you look at it, I got bad news for you, folks, because there will be different iterations that will present very similar challenges that if we don't make this shift and we don't bring more within our control and more within our ability to orchestrate, we'll have very similar outcomes.
Absolutely.
Right? They may not be tariffs. It may be, fill in the blank. It'll be some different version. So all the more reason, especially as disruptions have fewer and fewer breathing time between them, right?
That's right. And the dials will change, right? Cost in the past was an important piece.
Right.
Service was important. Risk now. There's just a whole bunch of dials that we have to constantly balance out. And getting this right, having that playbook to act on very quickly is very important.
That's right. Because as we all know, the curveballs, you bowl in cricket.
Yeah.
Do you have different types of bowls, like curveballs in the baseball? What?
We've got like in swingers and out swingers.
Okay, I'm learning something new here. Okay.
So we've got reverse swing. That's like the curveball, I think.
Okay.
But
Well, the in swingers are going to continue to come bowling towards you, and we got to find new ways of hitting them out of the park for 6 runs.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
There you go.
Good.
You can do a whole podcast of cricket now.
I'm certified in talking about cricket, at least, not playing it. All right, so shifting the conversation a bit, y'all invest in a bunch of events where you bring your customers, industry leaders together in different parts of the world. I think I saw a recent one in Amsterdam where I think you attended in person.
Yeah, I attended the one in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
But
colleagues.
A lot of our colleagues,
Yep. So when y'all get together and talk about some of your favorite key takeaways from making this investment into the market industry, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I think, first of all, in any of these events, the one we're sitting here right now,
right?
It's always fun to get out of team meetings and just connect with people the good old way and have honest, good conversations, right? And that itself is highly refreshing and immensely valuable. I don't think we can ever replace that, and we all would agree with that.
Yep.
And during these events, I think what I notice is the bigger part of it is people taking a step out of their daily routines. So they actually kind of trigger their creative brain, their inquisitive brain, versus stuck in the next 20 tasks they have in front of them. And so that creates, to me, an environment where innovation, creativity, problem-solving solutions are just a natural outcome. And so through these, we would do deeper discoveries.
Yep.
We would actually, a lot of it is connecting our customers with each other. One thing we've learned is they like to talk to each other, not just with us, right? And so giving them that network, hearing about their deeper pain points, solutioning and innovating on the fly.
Yep.
And just having that sort of thought, the peer leadership in space.
Yep.
Is kind of the biggest value creation for me.
I love it. And in particular, that getting out of our daily routines, that is so important. And it's so tough to do because with all these devices we've got and the power of everything you can do on a smartphone, these daily routines follow us wherever we go.
Yeah.
So having these opportunities where you can kind of shut things down, lean into the conversations in person with peers, you can have some breakthrough moments. Okay, I got two more questions for you. I got the toughest one, right? Your crystal ball. How is your crystal ball working? Is it functioning pretty good right now?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. The confidence in Vic, I love it. So when you think about the next couple of years, we'll call it in global supply chain, what does your crystal ball tell you? What's one thing we can expect?
Yeah. So I think, AI is already here, right? It's not like it's coming and it's going to be there in a year. We, at the keynote at Gartner, we talked about the autonomous AI era and 60% of adoption that could happen very soon. So it's here, right? And so I think what I see and what we see collectively as we talk with customers is that it's already here, and it's time to create processes where you're working directly with humans and agents and kind of adapt to that. Because the physical supply chain, you're going to keep getting more automation, right? And also on the decision piece of the supply chain, agentic AI is going to drive a lot. But really, there's a certain amount of limitations to what it could do.
Yep.
But the combined synergy of humans and agents gets me, for example, to do less of the grunt work,
Right.
but get tremendous value that I could create. Humans, we can imagine a future state of the supply chain that agents probably can't see as clearly as us, but we can use the agents to help us model it, do the heavy trade-offs, all the math, the optimization, and that kind of back and forth is what we see as the kind of day in a life when we look at the entire supply chain.
I like it. And on the front part of your response, what I heard you really stress to our audience members is we got to have a really deliberate, really intentional human-machine strategy, right? However you do that, whatever it looks like, we can't be meandering about that. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Vic, really appreciate what you and the Optilogic team are doing out there. It's a tip of the iceberg here today, this conversation at Symposium. If folks want to learn more about anything that you've shared here today, if they want to check out the events, if they want to bring you in and talk about that big shift, because they got some FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. They want to make this same leap. How can folks track you down and have a conversation with Optilogic?
Yeah, so my first name last name at optilogic.com, Vikram.Srinivasan. Reach out. You will hear back from me. I would love to have a follow-up conversation with you. Optilogic.com. You have all the information about us, but you can also create your own account, your personal account, and try it out, right? And get started. And we have a resource library with more than a few hundred, different ways to get started. And so I would love to, have you guys try that out.
Love it.
And we have a solutions team that's actively looking forward to engaging with you and helping you with any problems you have.
Vic, there's no shortage of ways to engage with you individually as an industry leader and with the cool things Optilogic is doing. And then that resource library he mentioned, lots of good stuff, lots of actionable white papers, I'll call them. I don't know if that's a phrase, but I've enjoyed some of that stuff, webinars, anecdotes, use cases, case studies, you name it. So go check that out and make sure you connect with Vic. To hopefully talk about not just supply chain, but my new favorite sport in cricket. Vic, you're good for cricket consulting, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would love that.
All right. Vic Srinivasan with Optilogic. He serves as the Vice President, Solution Architecture and New Products. Vic, great to see you again, my friend.
Thank you. Likewise. Really enjoyed our conversation.
I always do. Good stuff. Folks, hopefully you enjoyed this chat with Vic, who's doing big things out in the industry along with the Optilogic team. Be sure to connect with him on social or go check out optilogic.com. Lots and lots of resources there. Actionable resources there. And whatever you do, stick around as we continue our coverage here in Orlando as we meet with the movers and shakers at Gartner Supply Chain Symposium 2026. A lot more coming. You can find all of our coverage at supplychainnow.com or over on YouTube. And stay tuned for a lot more good news coming.